Welcome to April's governing body in public. We've got a short public meeting and then a short private meeting. The apologies I've got so far are Louise Lester from Public Health and Victoria McGregor Riley. Victoria's got a paper on the on this morning which Idris is going to present on her behalf. Any other apologies, Linz?
No, nothing else. No one else has notified me.
No, and it's looking that everyone is here. Any changes to declarations of interest? No, thank you. Questions from the public. Sarah informed me yesterday evening that there were no questions from the public. Just checking nothing's coming in overnight, Sarah?
No change, no questions.
Thanks, Sarah. Nicola, quality and patient safety update.
Okay, so this is the normal quality and patient safety paper that we normally do. So taking the paper as read, but the key highlights are the Ockenden assurance process. So the trust were required to submit a second self-assessment in February, which they did, and we reviewed that at QAPS last week. And the trust have had feedback now from NHS England on that return. They did declare non-compliant around the ward round position, so they're required to do twice daily ward rounds. And it was agreed originally they could be virtual, but that was changed. So obviously they put that in their December submission. So I've spoken to Lois last Tuesday, and she's now confirmed that the ward rounds are set up as proper ward rounds. So obviously that's really positive. So they're continuing to work with that, and there's continues to be lots of national focus on Ockenden, and obviously it was there's some national money now been allocated into obstetric services via the operational planning round. From a care home perspective, really positive as of yesterday, we've got no outbreaks in any of our care homes. I'm touching wood because it may change today, but so that's really positive. So it's enabling us to get back to some normal business with the care homes, and we're just starting to work through how we're going to do our audits and the other work that we do during normal business time. So that is really positive. From a leader perspective, we achieved all the reviews we were required to by year end. The leader process is now changing from the Bristol process to one that's been designed by NHS England, and that will be implemented in June. So we've got one review that will be part of the new process. We've been told to register it but put it on hold. So once the new system's up and running, we're ready to commence that review. And there's a national document that's been published and shared around leader and what the whole process looks like going forward and how it will evolve into the ICS footprint much more. So there'll be some changing times around leader. We've also appointed, two learning disability nurses actually. So the first one is the liaison nurse that will work into the trust and also work into the CCG. Previously, this was a position that was always based at Bassetlaw. Through some evaluation of the previous post holder, we decided that it would be better to make the post much more generic. So working in the trust when there was somebody admitted with a learning disability, but working much more proactively around people with learning disabilities that may need to attend for appointments or investigations, so working a bit more closely with primary care to identify some of those individuals. So it's working really well, and I think it'll be a really good opportunity to do some working across the system. And the second nurse we've employed will replace Gary, who's retiring at the end of May. So we'll have a new Gary, so to speak. So Sam, her name's Sam, she already joined us yesterday to shadow a CTR. So we're really pleased with those two new appointments. That's really positive. Continuing healthcare, we continue to meet all the targets up to Q4, and as part of the operational planning work, we were made aware that the discharge monies will continue through Q1, so all discharges will be funded for 6 weeks as per the process up till the end of Q4, and then for 4 weeks from June till September. So it's given us a little bit more time to work with partners around long-term plans around discharge and what we need to do to strengthen discharge. And then finally, personal health budgets. We've met our trajectory and we continue to develop personal health budgets with individuals and review existing people with health budgets. So I can see Hesh has got a question.
What's new? Hesh, then Sue.
Hello, thank you. Good morning. Just a quick question around care homes. Nicola, do you have any intelligence around what proportion of care home staff have been vaccinated?
So we have got some information that's been pulled off the care home tracker. However, the tracker is reliant on the care homes putting the information onto the tracker. So some information that was shared with me about 4 weeks ago by Victoria wasn't actually accurate, not just because they'd not updated the tracker. So we've targeted the homes which looked particularly bigger outliers. So Rachel's done that piece of work, and what we're encouraging them to do is obviously upload it onto the national system. So I think it was Jubilee Court looked so they'd hardly vaccinated any of their staff, which was unusual because obviously we've been in and out of those homes and they've been telling us their staff have been vaccinated. So we are on to that. I think we will have a small percentage that choose not to be vaccinated, whatever happens, unless it's mandated.
Yeah, I suppose that's the question that I had. Nationally, they're talking about, there's a consultation that's ongoing in terms of making it mandatory for care home staff to be vaccinated. And I was just wondering where we are on that journey, whether we have a significant issue at the moment, or for us it's a non-issue because most of ours have already been vaccinated. I
think we've got probably a small issue would be my summary of it, Hesh, and it's pockets probably. And we do know that quite a lot of the homes are, when new staff start, are asking them that it's a requirement that they've had their vaccines. So I suppose going forward that will make it better. And I think some of the other big companies like Barchester, HC1, some of the big companies are looking at actually whether they'll have it, put it into contracts and mandate it with their staff, but obviously they'll deal with that by their HR routes.
Okay.
Can I just sort of jump in that not to contradict anything that Nicola's just said because it's all accurate. The figures demonstrate at the moment that we've recorded 86% of staff and residents in care homes having had the vaccination. So when we get complete data, it will be a higher figure than that. So, you know, it's not low figures by any stretch of the imagination. And I suspect that the residents are 90+% and the staff is probably 80+%, something along those lines. But when we get the full data in, hopefully that will all go above 90%.
Perfect. Can I just ask, in terms of home care staff, is that figure equivalent to that as well?
We've got some information on healthcare, home care staff. I suspect it's probably not as high because obviously with the care home staff, you've got them in a contained space, so to speak, in the nicest possible way. Whereas obviously home care staff, you're relying on them between calls, going into somewhere to get their vaccine. So I suspect it's not as high, but we'll work with them. We are working closely with them.
Thank you.
Give me 1 minute, I'll come back to you, Hesh, and I'll give you a figure. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Nicola. Sue?
Nicola, were you going to mention ophthalmology here or in confidential?
It was confidential, but I don't know if that paper's still, Victoria said that the paper was coming in May.
Okay, because, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's right, it's been deferred till May. I know it's on the agenda for confidential, but it's deferred.
Yeah. Thanks. Nicola, could I just ask a couple of things?
Yeah.
Obviously, with Gary retiring, he looks really well for 64 and almost approaching 65. Could we, as a governing body, send a thanks and appreciation to Gary for his sterling work over many years with particularly around that sort of LD field, LD agenda. And actually, as part of that, do we have any updates on how we finished the year in terms of LD reviews?
So so yes, we can do something for Gary. That's absolutely fine, Eric, because he has pulled us into a really good position. So I was advised by NHS England, because that's where the final measurement comes from, that via their unvalidated data in December, so obviously we won't get the final result scores till probably mid-May, June, that we'd achieved the 67%, and we were at that point third in the country on that unvalidated data. So I'm suspecting that we're much higher. We should be, if not at our previous target, above that target. I did comment that we were slightly disappointed because we're normally second. So Gary was trying to get that done, but I think we've done really, really well, Eric. So once we've got some proper validated data, I think we can obviously celebrate that with everybody involved.
Thanks, Nicola. Kumar.
Hi, thank you, Nicola. Do you think that with few changes, a meeting between the new two appointees and myself to have a look at the LD and how we work with the secondary care, do you think that there's some mileage in it?
Absolutely, Hesh. Sorry, Kumar, I'm getting demented. Yes, that's fine. I'll get something set up. Sam's officially starts on the 3rd of May. But yeah, I think that would be really good. And we've obviously Evelyn's around, so we can get that in diaries.
Yeah, thank you. And on the COVID vaccine, I think we're really struggling with the second dose COVID vaccine to the care home staff, because now they can go anywhere to have for their second vaccine. And also with the scare, with the thrombosis, we are getting quite a lot of DNAs now for the first time, and we are struggling to fill some of the sessions. So it is a bit of a change we are feeling on the ground. But having said that, I mean, more than 85% is a good figure, we have to say, to nevertheless. But it's just for information, really. Thank you.
Of course, thanks, Kumar. Idris, is your hand back up with some data?
It is, yes, Eric, thank you. So the vaccination rate of NHS and social care staff combined is over 90%, 90.29. Carers stands at, well, local authority registered carers at 85%. So again, some good coverage, and we've actually vaccinated now over 2/3 of the adult Bassetlaw population, and obviously many of those adults are not yet eligible for the vaccine. So yeah, it is very good coverage, very impressive.
That's excellent. Thank you, Idris. Any other questions or points to Nicola in the open session? Oh, thanks for that update, Nicola.
Okay.
Moving swiftly on in Victoria's absence, Idris, mental health transformation.
Yep. Thank you again. So as governing body will be aware, we are currently in the PERDA period. So I'm not presenting any new sort of information, i.e. things that are not in the public domain, and neither am I seeking governing bodies sort of view at this point in time in terms of what the final decision will be. I think in the paper as well, it states that we're hoping to bring this formally to the May governing body, and with governing body's approval, I'd like to move that to probably either June or possibly July, just to give us enough time to analyse and collate and present reports on all of the engagement exercise. It is quite a thorough engagement exercise that we're carrying out, and I think we'll need that time to do that justice. So hopefully people are comfortable with that. But I'll just highlight some of the key points in the paper. So we started a pre-engagement exercise back last summer, and then the formal engagement exercise began on the 11th of February, and that will run until the 18th of April. So we've spent quite some time in various ways, sort of actually engaging on the issue. And it is a twofold issue, but actually related. One is about the mental health strategy that that we've put forward, which includes an investment of over £4 million in mental health services in Bassetlaw over the next few years. So I think that is a really positive news. Much of that, the engagement exercise describes as being put into community-based services and supporting a wide range of services, from perinatal mental health to young people's mental health, suicide prevention, urgent interventions and so on. So very much sort of based in Bassetlaw and supporting the population in Bassetlaw, and I think very timely, considering so what is likely to be some of the very negative impacts on people's mental health of COVID and post-COVID related to economy and other issues. We sought opinion from NHS England and assurance as part of their service change process, and that was received, and the paper sets out the key points that NHS England had suggested to us needed to be followed, or we needed to be mindful of. We've also been to the Health Scrutiny Committee, and the dates have been put forward there, and we're due to go to another one after the election. And also we've met with Bassetlaw District Council and their Scrutiny Committee. And we've written to the Clinical Senate for Yorkshire and Humber to get an independent clinical expert view on the proposed model. And again, their findings are set out in the paper. So obviously one of the areas that has received probably most comment so far in the engagement exercise is with regard to the potential move of the adults and older adult mental health beds to Mansfield. So we're looking at that in great detail, and we've approached Notts Healthcare with regard to the mitigation of that if that were to go ahead. So that will be one of the reasons why an extension in terms of before we bring this back for a formal governing body decision is going to be so important. So I'm happy to answer any sort of questions of fact, but like I said, during PERDA, it would be good to avoid sort of too much opinion at this point.
Thank you, Idris. Any questions? I can see Kumar's got his hand up.
Thank you, Idris. It's just that to give clinical input from the governing body in such a big piece of work, which it will continue for the years to come. We had some discussion whether we would have any GP or any other clinician, for instance, to be involved, specifically aligned for mental health, to take the agenda forward, because we as clinicians here across the table, we have got quite a significant other roles. And for me, it is vitally important that this gets heavyweight, and particularly from clinicians who are got expertise in that and can be a good critique too. So we need that kind of a skill for a governing body. Did you have any discussion in the exec about this, Idris? I think it was just an ask. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Kumar. Yes, we have discussed that, and in principle very much agree with that. Of course, there are GPs that have a particular interest around this topic, but won't necessarily want to commit to the time. And then there's, as a CCG, us ensuring that we've got guaranteed time for clinical input. And that obviously implies that we're going to pay somebody some sessions to do that. And I think potentially it's going to be a combination of both. I know that we've got sort of one or two names already coming forward around that, and that Victoria's had direct conversations sort of with them, but we just need to finalise the arrangements.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this for Idris? No? Okay. Thanks, Idris. We'll look forward to it coming back to governing body in due course. Moving on, do we have any other business? Okay. Well, that is going to bring the meeting in public to an end. Lindsay, could we stop recording, please?